Paper was like gold in medieval times.
Oh, not tobacco, sugar.
That everything we thought we knew about the world might turn out to be completely wrong.
We all have our imperfections, but I'm human, and it's important to concentrate on other qualities besides outer beauty. Quote from Beyonce Knowles. Beyonce Giselle Knowles has evolved into one of the greatest performers of all time. Her strong voice and theatrical performances are unparalleled. To date, she has sold over 130 million records worldwide and set the record for the most Grammy Awards won on a single night by a female artist. Her success is no coincidence. Beyoncé is the hardest working performer in music. This documentary film goes beyond the music and explores the challenges and triumphs of life on stage. Born on September 4th, 1981, as Beyonce Giselle Knowles, she is more commonly known only by her first name, Beyoncé. She is the eldest daughter of Matthew Knowles and Tina Knowles, formerly Tina Beyonce. In fact, Beyoncé is a derivation of her mother's maiden name. Although both of her parents are African American, her maternal grandparents were Creoles from Louisiana. The name Beyoncé is in honor of her Creole heritage. Her father, Matthew, is a former salesman. He has been Beyoncé's manager since he resigned from his job in 1995. Beyoncé is the eldest of two daughters. Her sister, Solange, is a singer and songwriter in her own right. Beyoncé is a native of Houston, Texas. While living there, she attended Iliff Elsick High School. She also studied at Houston's High School for the Performing and Visual Arts.
Beyoncé's name comes from her mother's maiden name, which is of Creole heritage, and her grandparents were Creole and from the Louisiana area.
What I do know about her childhood is that, very into performing, very shy person, but also very comfortable on stage, which makes it very odd to be shy.
Beyoncé's parents made great sacrifices and put a lot of hard work into their daughter's career. The simple truth is that Beyoncé wouldn't be where she is today without their sacrifice and belief in her. Their belief in Beyoncé fueled many years of hardship. Those sacrifices included the loss of their home and cars and almost their marriage. Her father quit his full-time job to manage his daughter's first musical group. This group eventually became known as Destiny's Child and went on to become one of the highest-selling girl groups of all time. Her mother worked extra hours at her salon just to help support the family. Tina says about this time that it was very stressful because we went from having two really great incomes to having one, and we had to scale down our house, sell our cars. It was a really tough time for us. Friends of the family thought that Tina and Matthew Knowles were crazy to be making all these sacrifices. You see, sacrifices were one thing for a child with talent, but Beyoncé was painfully shy. That is, until she stepped on stage. Then, she allowed herself to shine. It was that transformation that made her parents encourage their daughter to perform. They saw what performing did for Beyoncé and encouraged performing too, and in order to bring out her personality. Her performances even then were riveting and would only get better as she got older.
What Tina would do is, because she had her own hair salon, Beyoncé and her friends were allowed to come and perform there for the customers, and her mom really fed into this fascination with performing and making little outfits for them and helping them, just feeding that appetite of imagination. People who have an opinion about that, maybe may feel like it's too much. But if you look at the end result, was it really too much?
I think that everyone thought that the parents were crazy for supporting Beyoncé because they had so little, and they had just lost their job, and or at least their father had, and there just wasn't much to support them. and it didn't really seem like a viable dream at the time. I don't know how much everyone else thought Beyonce had this success, but her parents definitely saw that.
Their friends thought they were crazy because, I mean, they were losing their homes, losing cars. Matthew had to quit his job in order to pursue full-time management of the girl group at that time. And, you know, and Beyonce was a really, really shy kid, so it was one of these things where, you know, do you really want to pursue something for a kid who's shy and not really out of their shell yet? You know, that's the reason why a lot of people were really hesitant with some of the decisions they had made earlier on, just because you're giving up a lifestyle in order to make a dream come true if it happens.
By the age of 7, Beyonce was involved in a dance class where she became the star dancer. Throughout her childhood, Beyonce would win over 30 dance competitions. Her singing talent was discovered quite by accident when she finished singing a song that her dance instructor had been humming. She also performed as a soloist for her local church choir. Over the course of her career, Beyonce has been driven to succeed, and succeed she has. From recording artist, to actress, to fashion designer, to humanitarian, Beyonce has excelled at anything she has done. She has endured people upset with the breakup of Destiny's Child and her subsequent blame. She has endured her own personal trials, including bouts of depression that seriously impacted her life. Join us to learn the rest of this remarkable story. From an early age, Beyonce knew what she wanted to do. When most girls her age were playing with dolls, Beyonce was practicing and auditioning. When she was only 8 years old, Beyonce met Latavia Roberson at an audition for a female group. They were placed into a group with Beyonce's friend Kelly Rowland. Due to family issues of her own, Kelly Rowland was living with the Knowles. Initially called Girls' Tyme, this group had attracted national attention. West Coast R&B producer Arnie Frager flew to Houston to see them. Frager brought them into his studio and decided to focus on Beyonce's vocals because of her voice and her stage presence. Girls' Tyme eventually appeared on Star Search in an attempt to draw publicity. Girls' Tyme would rehearse in backyards and perform for Tina's customers in the headliner's salon that she owned. The girls would try out routines for the customers and would even sometimes get tips. At this point in time, the group consisted of Latavia Roberson, Kelly Rowland, LaToya Luckett, and Beyonce Knowles. The group continued to search for a name that fit them. In addition to the long hours she worked to financially support the family, Tina made an additional contribution to the group. Tina created the costumes they wore. She would continue this throughout the long career of what would become Destiny's Child. During this time, the group played for established R&B female groups. Matthew continued to get the group auditions before record labels. This paid off when they were signed by Elektra Records. At this point, the group was called Destiny. To begin work on their first album, Destiny moved to Atlanta, only to be cut by Elektra in 1995. In 1996, the group would change their name to Destiny's Child permanently. Upon their return home, Matthew renewed his efforts to get Destiny signed. Tina has talked about the sacrifices that the family made. We separated because at the time, I felt like he was a little too driven. She told Matthew that you can't stop life and just do this and not take care of the family. They reconciled in 1996, just in time for a contract from Columbia Records in 1997.
Okay, in 1995, they were signed to Elektra as Destiny. And at that time, they had moved out to Atlanta, ready to record, ready to embark on this adventure when the contract was pulled from up under their feet. In 1996, the girls regrouped and added Child to the end of Destiny. So you now have what we call Destiny's Child. And they got picked up by Columbia, and the rest is history.
Destiny's Child label debut was a song called Killing Time. It was recorded for the soundtrack for the 1997 movie Men in Black. In 1998, their first record, titled Destiny's Child, was released. The song No 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 from that album was the group's first hit. The single itself went platinum, though no other songs did. The album itself only made it to 67 on the Billboard 200. Helping to produce this album were Rob Fusari, Jermaine Dupri, Wyclef Jean, Dwayne Wiggins, and Corey Rooney. Beyoncé felt that the record was a success, but not as much as it could have been. She claimed that the sound was too mature for them.
I thought the first album, No No No, with featuring Wyclef Jean, was very successful. It really put them out there. I mean, me as, a consumer and a spectator, that initially grabbed my attention. And for there being a lack of, girl groups at that time, Destiny's Child, totally took opened that space and fulfilled it. So I think initially, just seeing that I thought they would go far.
I thought it was a great debut for them. Maybe not as successful as it could have been, but, it's a risk for the first one, because you don't know what works and what don't, You're trying to find, you don't know how the public is going to take these four girls, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure Beyonce, as strong-willed as she is, had her ideas of what should be done. But, you really don't get control over that first one.
Beyonce felt that it wasn't as successful as it should have been because the material was too mature. They were these teenage girls, and, you need material that's appropriate for the artist so that their fan base, or the fan base that they're being projected to, can believe in what they're singing about.
I think she thought she could have been more successful on that first album because they were sort of marketed beyond their years. They were too young, and it was still during the pop rise, and they came off as a little too mature. And I think that as a hip-hop representation, they kind of blew them out of the water, but they really wanted to be competing with their teen counterparts, and they didn't really come off that way.
The group wanted to build on their earlier success and quickly got back into the recording studio. In 1999, Destiny's Child produced their second album with the help of some new people, including Kevin Shakespeare Briggs and Rodney Jergens. This album was called The Writings on the Wall. The majority of the more popular songs that Destiny's Child is known for come from this album. Songs such as Bills, 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 Say My Name, Bugaboo, and Jumpin' Jumpin' are the most remembered.
That second album, she does a little bit more writing, and, she has, breakout success from the songs that she wrote, and, the group starts to take off a little more. They start to branch out. So, then you have her having more creative control. They trust her more to say, what you're talking about.
There's more success with the second album because I think they used younger producers for, was it Writings on the Wall, I believe that album was. And when you had Bugaboo, Bills, 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 Say My Name, you had things that the young audience could relate to. People their age could just soak up and say, yeah, why didn't you pay my bill? Or, you go through your relationship troubles, and if someone's cheating, then say my name, what's up, And I think people could really relate to that. And as far as Beyonce was concerned, I think them adding her to the writing world on that album, you really start to find out who she was and who the girls were as artists. You're starting to see them develop as artists.
Say My Name went on to win 2 awards at the 2001 Grammy Awards for Best R&B Song and Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals. In the early part of 2000, The Writings on the Wall hit the top 5 on the R&B charts and the Billboard 200. It would hit 8-time platinum status in the United States. This would become one of the top-selling albums in 2000. The group next worked on the soundtrack for Charlie's Angels. The song Independent Woman Part 1 was released as a single in October of 2000. It became the longest-running single of their career. The song spent 11 consecutive weeks in the Billboard Hot 100. This song was also responsible for increasing the sales of the soundtrack album to 1.5 million by the end of 2001. The group's third album, Survivor, was released in May of 2001. Survivor entered Billboard 200 at #1 and went platinum 4 times in the United States alone, while it went double platinum in Australia. Independent Woman Part 1 and Bootylicious went straight to the top of the Billboard Hot 100. Survivor reached #2 in the United States. Showcasing her hard work ethic, Beyoncé took greater control of this album. She helped to co-produce and co-write the majority of Survivor. In 2001, the group sang backup for Solange Knowles, Beyoncé's sister. The song was for a new animated series on the Disney Channel called The Proud Family. A holiday album called 8 Days of Christmas was released later in 2001, just in time for the group to announce plans to take some time off. This would end up being almost a 3-year break. Solange Knowles, Beyoncé's sister, had performed off and on with Destiny's Child. She had filled in when Kelly Rowland had broken her toes while performing. There were rumors that Solange would be joining Destiny's Child when the group got back together. However, it was confirmed that she would not be joining the group. Instead, Beyoncé helped to promote the release of Solange's debut album to be released in 2003.
Solange Knowles, she is Beyoncé's youngest sister. She actually started out background dancing with them. So if you ever watch any of the old videos or live performances, Solange was actually one of the backup dancers that they had. So she used to do backup dancing with them, and I think that kind of started Solange rolling her career onto, starting to work with her album and branching out there too. So that's where she really got started as the unofficial member of Destiny's Child.
Unofficial member of Destiny's Child, who I like to call the Ghost, was Solange Knowles, Beyoncé's younger sister. And when any of the girls couldn't perform or they were sick and weren't able to make a show, Solange would step in, talk about pressure and being put on the spot, to have to keep up with those girls, because those girls traveled and they worked, and kudos to Solange. You have to have a good ear, to know the harmonies for each and every single person in that group.
She came in when they just needed some extra people, and that she was available, and I think she was always emulating Beyoncé and just there as a backup and listening to, watching their father, teach Beyoncé, and she too was learning. And I think probably wanted her own spot in the group if she could, and so she definitely was available for them, and they relied on her when they needed her.
The group got back together for their final album in 2004. Called Destiny Fulfilled, the album peaked at #2 in the Billboard 200, while reaching the top 10 in 8 other countries. In the United States, although, the album did not top Survivor for Destiny's Child. It still remained one of the best-selling albums of 2005 and was certified 3 times platinum. At the end of their career together, Destiny's Child had established themselves as not only one of the most famous, but one of the top-selling female groups of all time. A compilation album was released in October of 2005, featuring Destiny's Child's most popular songs. Destiny's Child began a farewell tour that lasted from April to September 2005. Check On It, featuring Slim Thug, gave Beyoncé her third #1 hit. Destiny's Child reunited once more in 2006 to accept a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. The sacrifices that the girls and their families had made since the early 90s culminated in one of the most successful girl groups of all time, and launched all of them into their own careers after Destiny's Child. In 2000, the group's manager had an idea for members to take time off to do some solo projects. Destiny's Child released their autobiography during this time called Soul Survivors.
The idea to take a break from all these projects that were going on at the time was Beyoncé's father, Matthew Knowles, who was their manager. He just felt the girls had been working so hard and on tour back-to-back, recording back-to-back, that it was time they take a break, and if they wanted to pursue individual albums and other endeavors, that would create the opportunity for them to do it.
The 3 of them had solo deals on the table and different ideas that they wanted to try. All 3 of them are amazing artists. So, you know, together they make actually a super group as opposed to just being a regular group, which I don't think most people give them credit for.
I think it was their father or Beyonce's father that encouraged them to go into their solo careers. And I think he just saw Beyonce as kind of a strikeout member. I know she was training a lot harder, and one of the things that always impressed me about the Knowles family was how he had them, you know, running and singing at the same time in order to prepare and be more fit. And from my understanding, Beyonce was just a real type A. She was a real go-getter, so she was sort of exceeding the realms of the groups or the needs of the group. And I think he was really encouraging them to each reach their own potential and their own success without trying to make it seem like he was just single-mindedly, you know, or single-handedly pushing his daughter, but really letting the group members, you know, sink or swim on their own.
In 2001, Beyoncé somehow found the time to land a major role for an MTV film called Carmen, a hip opera. She co-starred with Mekhi Phifer. The story was a modern interpretation of the opera Carmen, written by the French composer Georges Bizet. In 2002, Beyoncé starred opposite Mike Myers as Foxy Cleopatra in the comedy called Austin Powers in Goldmember. She also recorded her first solo single for the soundtrack of the movie called Work It Out. In 2003, Beyoncé worked with Cuba Gooding Jr. on a movie called The Fighting Temptations. This time, she recorded numerous songs for the movie's soundtrack. Two of these were Fighting Temptation and a remake of Fever. During 2003, Beyoncé was featured on rap artist Jay-Z's hit single titled "03 Bonnie and Clyde." Also in 2003, Beyoncé was able to collaborate on a song with one of her inspirations, Luther Vandross. They recorded "The Closer I Get to You." This was a remake of a song recorded by Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway in 1977. This song would earn them a Grammy for the Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals the following year.
One of Beyonce's biggest musical inspirations was who I like to call the Black Pavarotti, Luther Vandross. And they recorded and won the Grammy for covering "The Closer I Get to You," which was recorded back in the day by Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. And hey, they won the Grammy, and it was a great song.
That collaboration for her led to future collaborations with him. I mean, Luther Vandross recorded a song, Dance With My Father, and it actually, she was in the video and part of that video. So they made a great team. I mean, Beyonce's voice is phenomenal, and Luther is he's timeless.
2003 was a busy year for Beyoncé, as it was also the release of her first solo album entitled Dangerously in Love. Going straight to the #1 spot on the Billboard 200, it also reached the #2 spot in Australia. In addition, Dangerously in Love topped 7 charts worldwide. Dangerously in Love went platinum 3 weeks after its release. It remains as her best-selling album with over 6 million copies sold worldwide. Beyoncé's single Crazy in Love and her album topped both charts at the same time. She was the first artist to achieve this amazing level of sales since those of the Beatles and others like them in the 60s and 70s. She is still the only artist to have accomplished this.
The significance about the sales for Beyonce's first album and the single Crazy in Love is that they had pretty much reached, if not surpassed, what the Beatles had established back in the day. And Beyonce was able, not only as an artist be able to do it, but as a female recording artist, able to set this new record, which hadn't really been done, you know, and just another thing to add to her resume.
Beyonce's first solo single, Crazy in Love, did astronomical sales. I think they compared it to that of the Beatles' first single, making that much profit and or selling that many records for that album. Really solidified her in the game as a standalone icon. I think Beyonce finally, that was one of the pivotal points where it was like, this girl has it. She can do it all. She has, she has the things that make up a great star. And so for her to sell that many albums and be compared to the Beatles, that's like amazing accomplishment for her. So that puts her right up there with them. And I think that only got the ball rolling for greater things to come from Beyonce.
The success of Dangerously in Love sparked Beyonce's first concert tour. Crazy in Love, featuring Jay-Z, and Baby Boy, featuring Sean Paul, were two #1 singles that contributed to her record-tying 5 Grammy Awards received in 2004. LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson attempted to get rid of the group's manager, also Beyonce's father, toward the end of 1999. They felt that Matthew Knowles was not evenly distributing the pay that each of them received. LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson felt that he kept too much money and that Kelly Rowland and Beyonce Knowles received preferential treatment and subsequently more money. However, instead of that happening, they were replaced. They found out when a video for Say My Name was introduced with the explanation that LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson had left the group. The two sued the rest of the group and Matthew Knowles in March of 2000, stating they had never intended to leave the group, but had only wanted to replace the manager. The split became very public with attacks through the media. Many people ended up blaming Beyonce for the split. The women eventually dropped the lawsuit towards the end of 2000 against the members of Destiny's Child. The agreement stated that there were to be no more public attacks on either side, in addition to a settlement.
Though those two members, LaToya Luckett and Latavia, they were surprised because they were not in the video. They had been replaced. Their vocals were still in. However, that was by the time, from recording time from the song Say My Name to actually shooting the video, they were no longer members of the group, and they had already replaced them with someone else. So they were surprised because it was their vocals, but 2 other people in their place. I can only say that it comes down to maybe business. And I don't know if it's ethical because I'm not there, I'm not a part of the group, I don't know what actually transpired, but from hearing everybody's story, some of it seemed a little bit shady, but that's the business that they handled, and I hope they handled the monetary parts of it and they were actually able to get paid. But yeah, I think that it's unfortunate, but things happen. So hopefully, but I hear they're doing quite well. They're moving on in their careers and doing things for themselves.
I believe that the former members were really surprised with the video Say My Name, because that was actually how they found out they were no longer in the group. The other gals were performing it. They knew that they had originally recorded it, and then they found out there's another version. Actually, in truth, my own fanship was really sort of swayed when that happened, and at the time when Beyonce had come out, I was sort of lukewarm. She was one of the other stars, and it was really sort of turned off. I thought that you had to have some group loyalty, and there was a lot going on. But in retrospect, it's really hard for, I think, any outsider of the situation to gauge what was going on, and it does seem a little bit strange to find out that way. I found out later that they were having some problems with the group members for a long time, and I think if you felt like this group was your baby and it was everything that you lived, breathed, eat, slept, it was constantly, and if you didn't feel like people were taking it the same way, I can't imagine what they were going through, the girls that stayed in the group. So I think there's multiple sides. It's just a sad fact of the industry, and nothing's really nice here.
This piece lasted until the release of Survivor. When LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson heard the lyrics for Survivor, they believed that it was another attack on them. All court cases were settled in 2002. Michelle Williams and Farrah Franklin were the two chosen to replace LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson. Farrah Franklin left Destiny's Child after performing for only 5 months with the group. Failing to appear for promotional appearance and concerts led to Destiny's Child asking her to leave. Once again, there was controversy surrounding her departure, although much less than with LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson. This left Kelly Rowland, Michelle Williams, and Beyonce Knowles as the 3 surviving members of Destiny's Child. Late in 2005, Beyonce landed a role in the movie Dreamgirls. Dreamgirls was based on a Broadway musical detailing the lives of the female group The Supremes. Also starring in the movie were Jamie Foxx, Eddie Murphy, and Jennifer Hudson. Beyonce played the part of Dina Jones, the character based somewhat on Diana Ross. The film was released in December 2006 and opened at number 3. Once again, Beyonce recorded several songs for the movie soundtrack. Included in these was the original song, Listen. This movie earned her 2 Golden Globe nominations in 2007, one for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, and one for Best Original Song for Listen.
So Beyonce, furthering her acknowledgement and appreciation for Diana Ross, was cast in Dreamgirls. And this is loosely based on the Supremes, but she plays the main character, and a lot of the parallels that Beyonce's character Dina played parallel to Diana Ross's career goals and rolling as her beginning in the music career. She really tried to embody that, and I mean, she went far beyond physically. I mean, she went on some kind of master cleanse to actually, lose weight and get slender to physically embody the character, and I've quoted her, I mean, she said it's one of the hardest things she's ever done.
Beyonce then continued her acting role playing opposite Steve Martin in The Pink Panther. This time, her role was that of an international pop star called Xenia. Released in February 2006, the movie opened at number 1. Beyonce continued to put off producing her second album because her acting career had been so busy. However, using her role in Dreamgirls as inspiration, Beyonce co-wrote and co-produced most of the songs on her second album. The album was released on September 5, 2006, to coincide with her 25th birthday. The album was completed in a mere 3 weeks. B-Day was Beyonce's second number 1 album, as it hit the Billboard 200 and the US R&B charts at number 1. The sales for B-Day gave Beyonce her highest first-week sales reached ever. It also earned her a Grammy for Best Contemporary R&B Album at the 2007 Grammys. Deja Vu, featuring Jay-Z, was the second number 1 single that Beyonce had in the United Kingdom.
Beyonce used as inspiration for her birthday album the role she had just played as Dina in the now hit movie Dreamgirls. Dina was derived from the life of Diana Ross, and she used that plus the fact the album was going to be released around her birthday, which is on September 4th, and it was released on September 5th, and it went big. The album went big because Dreamgirls had just come out and it was a smash hit. The best time ever to release a new project is after you're already on top of the world. And, Beyonce had Listen on that Dreamgirls soundtrack. That was a great hit for the movie, an original song. And, what better time than now to release that CD, and you saw what it did. It went straight to the top.
B-Day was re-released in 2007 as a deluxe edition with 5 new songs. It also included Spanish versions of Irreplaceable and Listen. Beautiful Liar was recorded with Shakira and was the first single to be released from the deluxe edition, becoming another number 1 hit. The concert tour for the album was called The Beyonce Experience. She visited over 90 locales worldwide. This tour was made into the Beyonce Experience Live DVD. Beyonce's third album was something a lot different for her. It used the fact that Beyonce had an alter ego that performed for her called Sasha. Beyonce has said that in spite of her sexy onstage persona, she is not really like that. She has admitted that her alter ego Sasha is really the one that performs. In her next album, Sasha has obtained a last name, and she and Beyonce have their own discs. In 2008, she released the album called I Am Sasha Fierce. This album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Beyoncé would become only the third female artist of the 21st century to have her first 3 albums debut in the #1 position on the charts. The first disc is called I Am. This is the woman behind the stage persona. She used this as an opportunity to get the real woman in the limelight. This side is not music that most fans would connect with Beyoncé. This side has a wide range of musical influences, from folk to alternative. Beyoncé wrote a variety of contemporary ballads for this side. The most notable of these was If I Were a Boy, which reached #1 in 8 charts worldwide. Sasha Fierce's side was the type of music that Beyoncé has become known for. The first single to be released from this side was Single Ladies, Put a Ring on It. This song hit #1 on the Hot 100. It would become Beyoncé's 5th #1 single. This song is known for its choreography and is said to have started the first dance craze of the millennium. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, this song definitely has that distinction. There have been tons of parodies from celebrities such as Justin Timberlake and Joe Jonas to fans posting their own versions online. This song received 9 nominations alone for the 2009 MTV Awards. It ended up with 3 wins, including one for Video of the Year.
The role Sasha Fierce plays in Beyoncé's life is her alter ego. This spicy type of woman who is very sexual and revealing and open about who she is and pushing the boundaries, which is everything Beyoncé is not in real life. You know, Beyoncé's more shy and relaxed and quiet, but then when she hits the stage, you see this bigger than life personality, and you're introduced to Sasha Fierce.
Sasha Fierce I always kind of loved because it seemed like a character, and I could really sort of relate to that. She had this alter ego, and I've taken plenty of names and gone on a lot of travels, and I'll come up with another name that just works for that. So I think it's fun to play around with an alter ego, and especially she never really did. She had this name Beyonce, but if anything, it's just the simplest pure form. She never changed it, like we hear a lot of actors do. She doesn't even have her backup name, and so I thought it was kind of neat that she got to play around with another idea. And with that, I kind of hoped that we would get to see another side of Beyonce, that she would really let herself go. I think she really did on that album.
December of 2008 had Beyoncé once again starring in another musical. She portrayed Etta James in Cadillac Records. James' classic song, At Last, was performed by Beyoncé in honor of Barack Obama and his wife Michelle's first dance as President and First Lady of America at his inauguration on January 20th, 2009. During this time, another single was released from I Am Sasha Fierce. Halo peaked on the Billboard Hot 100 at #5. This earned Beyoncé her 12th top 10 single as a solo artist. With this distinction, she had the largest number of top 10 hits among any other female artist of the 2000s. This album precipitated her 3rd concert tour called the I Am Tour. It began in March 2009 and ended February 2010. April 2009 had Beyoncé starring in a thriller movie called Obsessed. She starred opposite Ali Larter and Idris Elba. This film was considered to be a success as it grossed $11.1 million the first day it was released. It ended up at #1 the first week it was open, with a revenue of $28.5 million. Beyoncé and Lady Gaga collaborated on Telephone, winning Video of the Year in 2010 for the BET Awards. Knowles received 10 nominations at the 2010 Grammy Awards. This tied her with Lauryn Hill for the most Grammy nominations in a single year by a female artist. Beyoncé won 6 out of 10 of her nominations, ultimately setting a new record for the most Grammy Awards won in a single night by a female artist.
Beyoncé made a distinction in Grammy Award history, being nominated for 10 Grammys and walking away with 6 in 2010. I mean, Lauryn Hill was the only other woman to be nominated for 10, but for Beyoncé to walk away with 6, she made history. No other woman has done that. No other woman can add to their resume, I now hold 6 Grammys in one night.
She won the most Grammy Awards, I believe, in 2010. And since then, I think it's really solidified her as not just a pop star, it's given her some grounding. You know, we've wondered, especially with the child stars or, you know, the teen stars that were musicians and came over, and we really saw her as a staple player, and certainly of the decade. I think it really consecrated her place in music for the last decade, you know, that we've seen the rise of Destiny's Child really through the 2000s.
As the publicity surrounding the breakup of Destiny's Child continued, LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson filed a lawsuit against Beyoncé, Kelly, Michelle, and Matthew Knowles. The two women accused manager Matthew Knowles, father of Beyoncé, of failing to pay them an equal share of profits and alleged he gave preferential treatment to his daughter and Roland. A series of public attacks ensued from not only the girls, but from the media, critics, and fans blogging about the breakup, and all blaming Beyoncé. As Beyoncé took the brunt of the public attacks, this directly affected her own mental health. In 1999, Beyoncé began to suffer from depression. The publicity of the lawsuit and the breakup of the group, combined with the loss of a longtime boyfriend, was enough to send her into a depression for years. Beyoncé would lock herself in her room for days at a time while refusing to eat. Questioning herself and the people she called friends, Beyoncé once said, "Now that I was famous, I was afraid I'd never find somebody again to love for me. I was afraid of making new friends." She was afraid to say anything to anyone about it because Destiny's Child was doing so well. Beyoncé didn't feel that anyone would give credence to her depression. Crediting her mother with helping her to overcome the disorder, Beyoncé recalls that at one point her mother said, "Why do you think a person wouldn't love you? Don't you know how smart and sweet and beautiful you are?" This apparently was what she needed to hear at the time, and she was able to overcome the disorder. Beyoncé began talking about this time in her life in 2006.
I know that Beyoncé, she did go through, I mean, she's human just like everyone else, and she did go through some bouts of depression and like anxiety when Destiny's Child was going through their dismemberment and adding new people, and the media, you know, bringing in their comments on it and saying that, you know, everything was her fault. Basically, the media was putting it on her as if she had the main issue or the main cause for the group disbanding members and adding new members. So she went through a great bout of depression where she didn't want to leave the house and you know, felt like a lot of things were on her, and she was just very reserved and to herself. But I think, you know, the true jewel always shines, and she found her strength. She's a spiritual person, so she definitely acknowledges, you know, her spiritual uplifting to help her get out of that and just keep moving forward and moving on with that.
With so many people in Hollywood succumbing to the pressure of fame, Beyoncé's mother has talked to her about it a lot. She has said, "That's the one thing I harp on all the time. Be yourself. Don't get caught up in all this stuff because it's fleeting. It goes away, and at the end of the day, you have to be happy with who you are." In 2002, Beyoncé began dating rapper Jay-Z, with whom she has collaborated on several projects. Rumors began to circulate about their relationship after she was featured on his song "03 Bonnie and Clyde." Rumors about a pending marriage began circulating in 2005. Beyoncé responded that they were not even engaged and refused to talk further about it. Then, in 2007, Jay-Z was asked again about the possibility of marriage. He replied, "One day soon. Let's leave it at that." They were able to maintain their privacy in spite of rumors until their marriage on April 4, 2008 in New York City. Beyoncé did not even publicly show her wedding ring until September 5th at a Fashion Rocks concert in New York City. Before their marriage, Beyoncé and Jay-Z had been listed as the most powerful couple for Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People of 2006. In January 2009, Forbes ranked them as Hollywood's top-earning couple, with a combined total of $162 million. The following year, they made it to the top of the list again, with a combined income of $122 million between June 2008 and June 2009.
So the relationship with Jay-Z that Beyonce had was kind of this hit and miss. You first kind of saw them appearing in videos together. Bonnie and Clyde, you know, you had the little Crazy in Love, and people start scratching their heads right around Crazy in Love saying, what's going on with these two? Rumors were starting to circulate, and no one really knows. Beyonce's very private in that sense. You know, when she's on stage, what's going on with her music and charities, she's very outspoken about. But when it comes to family and her love life, you don't really know that much. Well, Jay-Z happened to blow that on an interview he did and kind of hinted around to the fact that they were going out, which, you know, a little later, it was revealed, and then they got married.
You know, it took me a while to find out that Jay-Z and Beyonce were together, I think, as did the rest of the public. And it was so interesting when it happened because they were such big power players, and yet it was, you know, it was very quiet. I really respected them a lot for that. I was really rooting for them. I think, you know, I'm rooting for relationships in all dynamics, and so to see such a talented couple, it's it's refreshing. And what's most refreshing is that they are so private. It makes me think that there really is something there, and it's not for us public, it is for them. And if anything, I just hope that it breeds more creativity, more life. They collaborate on each other's projects. You know, they may not have ever publicly acknowledged their relationship, but the way that they work together, I think, is that kind of acknowledgement, and that's what you would do in a wonderfully, you know, talented couple that get to work together.
Beyonce Knowles is not only a superstar in the music industry, but also someone who cares deeply about people. She supports numerous charities and has even created a few of her own. In 2001, Destiny's Child had been planning on a European tour, but in the wake of the 9/11 disasters, the tour was canceled. Instead, the group performed at a couple of benefits for the survivors of the attacks. Of all the charities that Beyoncé supports, she is perhaps best known for the Survivor Foundation. She and fellow member Kelly Rowland of Destiny's Child, her sister Solange, and her parents Tina and Matthew Knowles founded this organization to help victims of Hurricane Katrina. Its purpose was to provide temporary housing for victims of the hurricane in the Houston, Texas area. The Survivor Foundation became an extension of the mission of the Knowles Rowland Center for Youth, a multi-purpose community outreach facility in downtown Houston. They are responsible for creating the Music World Cares Christmas Carnival that helped over 300 low-income households to enjoy a fun-filled day of food, entertainment, a visit from Santa Claus, and free toys from the toy giveaway. 2005 saw Beyonce Knowles' record producer David Foster and his daughter Amy write Stand Up for Love. This was written for the anthem to the World Children's Day. This annual worldwide event is used to raise awareness and funds for children's causes. The group has raised over $50 million to benefit Ronald McDonald House charities and other children's organizations. Destiny's Child lent their voices and support as global ambassadors for the 2005 program. In 2006, Beyoncé conducted food drives prior to her concerts during the Beyoncé Experience Tour. She also shows she cares in other ways. During one of her concerts, a couple of people were injured during a fireworks accident. Beyoncé went to the hospital directly after the concert to spend time with them. Beyoncé teamed up with General Mills Hamburger Helper and Feeding America to deliver 3.5 million meals to local food banks. She also gave over 2,000 concert tickets to disadvantaged families. During her research for the movie Cadillac Records, Beyoncé spent time at a drug and alcohol treatment facility called Phoenix House. She ended up donating her entire salary from the movie to the facility. She also created and opened the Beyoncé Cosmetology Center there to help teach recovering addicts job skills and increase their chances of success. In 2009, Billboard's Women in Music honored Beyoncé as their pick for Woman of the Year. Billboard cited her work ethic, her work, her humanitarian efforts, and her ability to empower and inspire women everywhere for the reason she was chosen. The list of actual charities that she has supported or helped in some way is very extensive. This is definitely someone who uses her name and the money she makes to help make the world better. She does not require recognition for this, but does it because that is the kind of person she is. House of Darion is a contemporary women's fashion line that Beyoncé and her mother created in 2005. The name Darion is a form of tribute to Beyoncé's grandmother, Agnes Darion, who worked as a seamstress. The style of the clothes carried by the House of Darion is reflective of tastes of the Knowles women. The store is available for those in the United States and Canada. It sells a wide range of clothing from sportswear, denim, fur, accessories, and handbags. They even teamed up with a local shoe store called House of Brands to provide different types of footwear for the House of Darion patrons. Beyoncé and Tina Knowles founded the family company called Beyond Productions. Created in 2004, Beyond Productions is responsible for administering the licensing and the brand management for their clothing store, House of Darion. Beyoncé Fashion Diva was launched in early 2008. Incorporating the House of Darion, the game also has a networking component. Sasha Fierce obtained her own line of junior apparel in July 2009. Obviously inspired by Beyoncé's alter ego that performs for her, the line includes sportswear, outerwear, jewelry, lingerie, handbags, and of course, shoes. Macy's, Dillard's, and other specialty stores picked up the line. In May 2010, Beyoncé worked out an arrangement to be able to sell her new line, Darion by Beyoncé, for C&A. It is only available in Brazilian C&A stores. Beyoncé has done numerous product endorsements over the course of her long career. She has worked with Pepsi doing commercials, radio, and internet advertisements. She has also worked with L'Oreal since she was 18. Beyoncé has worked on a couple of projects for Tommy Hilfiger. Beyoncé created her own perfume called Heat that was launched in February 2010. She re-recorded her version of Fever for the commercial to be used on television. Beyoncé announced in January of 2010 that she was going to take some time off to recharge her batteries. There have been reports that she is beginning work on a new album. There is also a possibility that she will be working with Clint Eastwood as he directs a musical remake of A Star is Born. The most recent version was made in 1976 and starred Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson.
Beyonce's future will never trickle off because of her success that she's already had. That's like saying Diana Ross will trickle off somewhere. You know, when you start talking great music, you start talking about these individuals. That's like saying Michael Jackson will never be remembered.
I think she's a great role model. I think she's, because she's out there and she's doing it, and she never, she always wanted it. And she's open about some of the issues that she's had, some of the big ones, being open about depression and still being able to get where she is because she wasn't going to stop. I think that's what any parent wants their kid to be emulating.
Beyoncé is literally a rags to riches story. She was a member of Destiny's Child, one of the leading female groups of all time. She went on to have a phenomenal solo career, during which she has earned numerous awards. She set several records in her career, like winning the largest number of Grammys in one night. Beyoncé was not satisfied with being only a singer. She also wrote and produced her own songs. Beyoncé became an actress. She and her mother created their own clothing line. In spite of all of her successes, or maybe because of it, Beyoncé is very involved in numerous charities. She encourages others to do so as well. Instead of acting like a diva and expecting people to wait on her, Beyoncé takes responsibility for herself. She teaches a social consciousness that is rare to see these days. Beyoncé may have had a natural talent, but she did not rely on that alone. Her hard work and dedication to her profession is what elevated her into the record books. But she will be remembered for more than her talent, for more than her records. Beyoncé is one of those people that tries to leave the world in better shape than when they found it.